KTRS, the Big 550. Jay Kanzler filling in for McGraw Millhaven. And we're joined by Stephen A. LaChance. His book, Confrontation with Evil, is an in-depth review of the 1949 possession that inspired The Exorcist. Your other book, The Uninvited, is about your own experience. We were just describing before the break about something going on in your house.
Right.
And you were just describing, much to my chagrin, because I think, wow, I don't know what I would have... These things and this presence and the screaming that would go on in the house. What did you do? I mean, did you do something to change that, to exercise your house, or did you just move?
We left. We didn't stay. You know, you got 3 young kids, I mean, and you're dealing with something like that, and the kids can't sleep. No matter whatever reason you might think it might be. I mean, children need stability, so we did leave.
I would like to go ahead and take some calls at 969-5877 and 888-550-5877. Maybe others out there have had incidents of paranormal, or they have some questions for you.
Sure.
So after that event, prior to that, was this something that you had looked into, that you had studied, or was this, wow, now that I have been visited, by the otherworldly, I'm going to get to know this?
Well, I think it's interesting. I get asked that a lot. Were you skeptical beforehand? And it wasn't that I was really skeptical. It's just I really didn't give it much thought. Mm-hmm. I just didn't think about it. And then all of a sudden when you're confronted with it, and I'm kind of an analytical person. So, I mean, once that happened, I had to start looking into what this thing is and how's it work.
That led to your writing this present book, Confrontation with Evil, a look at the exorcism. Did you draw any parallels between the two?
Definitely. One of the things that was really difficult writing the book was living in the mind of the boy for months at a time, and correlating my own children, seeing my own children going through something like this. I felt a tremendous amount of empathy for this child. As a matter of fact, you'll see the book is dedicated to him, and the reason it's dedicated to him is I don't think people have given him the empathy that he deserves. In a lot of ways, they made him out the spinning head monster, and he's not that. He's a very human person, a boy going through puberty, a boy going through a very difficult time. And I related that to my own kids.
Has the individual from the 1949 incident that inspired the movie, did he ever speak out after that?
No, he when you ask about it, he'll tell people he doesn't remember it. He doesn't remember anything. It's not unusual. But I have a friend that was one of the kids that lived in the Amityville house, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, and I know what it was like for him to grow up as the Amityville boy. And I imagine for this guy, it was much the same way, because the news story started right after the exorcism. Then he gets a little older, and it's the 70s now. And the movie in the book comes out, right? Can you imagine what it was like being the Exorcist boy? I imagine I would not remember it either.
No, because you wouldn't. That's all anyone would ever want to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
Taking calls at 969-5877 for Stephen LaChance, author, and someone who's had firsthand experience with the paranormal. Speaking of, how that impacted the boy from The Exorcist incident, how about your kids?
They're doing pretty good. I've kept them pretty much under wraps.
Right.
It's been very, very good, especially the girl who gets married and changes her name, right? Well, they all deal with it in different ways. I have my youngest is, I guess, more like me. I have a middle son who's a scientist, and he's very scientific about, what could have caused it, and he doesn't feel it was paranormal. It could have been a number of different things. And then my daughter's very on more of a very religious side of it.
Wow.
So all three, it's interesting.
How people view that. 969-5877. We have Tim on the line. Go ahead, Tim.
I live down on the south side, and I just bought this house maybe 3-4 years ago. And ever since I moved in, I keep seeing this female apparition of some sort. But you only see the top of her head. She's blonde, and the lower part of her feet just above the ankles. You never seen anything in between. She's got like one of those 1940 lace gowns that they used to wear. And it's black. And she only shows up in the corridor near the bathroom and the kitchen. Or she'll be walking up the steps to the second floor. I have no idea what's going on. She's not malicious in any way that I can think of. She's just there.
What do you think of that, Stephen?
Well,
what Tim's describing.
South St. Louis is a very haunted place, by the way, number one. But here's the reason. Tim, I want you to think of this as like a videotape. It keeps replaying, and playing. St. Louis is notorious, especially the South City area, for the water and limestone that runs underneath. And it works sort of like a videotape recorder. And a lot of times events will replay. We've seen this throughout paranormal history. It happens in different places. That is a residual type event. It will continue to play itself out, and it's typical for that area, by the way.
That's fine. Thank you very much for your call, Tim.
No problem.
We have Tom on the line. Go ahead, Tom. You're with Steve LaChance.
Hey, good morning. I was just wondering if you've ever been in the Exorcist house over there.
Yes.
What's
You
it,
have, okay.
Yeah, what's it like? I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Have you been to the Exorcist house?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and I get two stories. I hear that there's a guy living in the house, and I say nobody's spent the night in that house since 1949.
Well, there's a guy that's living in the house, and I don't think he would mind me saying this. He's an atheist and doesn't believe in it and doesn't believe anything's happening there.
I guess you'd almost have to be.
He's been there, and the neighbors. I mean, there were clues. If you remember in the Exorcist movie, there were clues that he put on the name of the guy and her name, Reagan, and I don't want to give it away because it'll give away the name of the boy, and I don't think you want to do that.
No, I'm trying not to. I got it. I know his real name. Yeah. I'm trying not to use it. I'm trying to give him that respect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I won't give that away, but I've studied this and read about it, and I mean it's a local thing. The neighbors have talked about it, and I just can't see anybody spending a night in that house. So if this guy, I've heard that he has, but I still don't believe it.
Yeah, he lives there. He sure does.
Wow.
Well, thanks for the call, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
You bet. Stephen, have you spoken with this guy? What does does he describe any activity at all?
No activity. As a matter of fact, people that lived there before, you'll find little inklings throughout history. Mm-hmm. Where somebody will find out and then they'll have, but majority of people that you talk to, if they're from the religious mindset, they'll tell you it's the most blessed house in America. Mm-hmm. And if they live there and they're atheists, they'll tell you nothing's happening. They did that whole TV show a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, right. So what happened there is he went on the news and said, hey, listen, I'm an atheist and nothing's going on. So there you go.
Were you able to interview the actual person involved in The Exorcist?
No, you cannot get a hold of him.
He won't.
He will not talk. And the reason that he won't is he says, just plain and simple, I do not remember.
Right. I think it'd be interesting to see how that changed his life. Even though he may not have remembered the event, that must have changed his life in a significant way. Having gone through that,
I would imagine so. I know that he became a Catholic during the event. Mm-hmm. His family became a Catholic. They turned to Catholicism right after. He did go to work for NASA. Mm-hmm. So this is I think everything that happens to us in life, whether it's this kind of thing or anything, molds us. So I'm sure it had an effect on him somewhere, somehow.
You talk about the different approaches that your kids have taken to explaining it. Do you have a theory in terms of, I would come to at something like this from more of a religious perspective based on, my position as an Episcopal priest. I don't believe that as a priest I have all the answers to anything, supernatural, spiritual. But do you have a theory in terms of what causes these events?
What causes them?
Yeah, I mean, why? Why do people show up? And are these really spirits, or are these just
Well, first of all, this is not a ghost that we're talking
No,
about.
no,
here.
I know.
The Exorcist,
Yeah.
that's a demonic.
Right.
That's different than ghosts.
Right.
That's different than grandma coming to see you. By the way, that is the most common occurrence. You know, anytime I'm out signing books or anything,
Right.
anywhere around the country, the people always come up and say, I saw grandma, or I saw my mother, I saw my father. It's part of the grief process. Looking at it from this particular case, looking at it from this way, my faith tells me it's very real. From a faith standpoint. And then there's the other point where I look at it from a more scientific, and there's something going on here. And I think it has to do with something within our makeup or something within our mindset. Mindset is the power of negative and positive thinking, in this case, negative, and how we can draw things to ourselves. And maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all made up of energy. Energy doesn't leave, it doesn't expand, it stays consistent. So that's always good to keep in mind when talking about these things.
Take one more call.
Sure.
Okay, Diana, you're on with Stephen LaChance, author, Confrontation with Evil. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Okay, so my question is, you mentioned the darkness of South St. Louis and the history of South St. Louis. So how has that darkness affected the culture of St. Louis and the politics of St. Louis? And I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Actually, there's a whole chapter in the book that leads up to that. This book goes all the way to the last chapter, and it discusses that because St. Louis has been dealing with this for a long period of time. Starting back with, if you go back to all the Indian legends and the Cherokee Cave and what happened there, the Lemp family, the Exorcist boy, and then it just continues forward. I think it's all had a very, very strong effect on us in both ways, both religious and both in paranormal circles as well. And for one thing, we're quite known for it, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Stephen LaChance, Confrontation with Evil is your book. Tell our listeners where they get this.
Well, it's available worldwide. You can get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, BAMS, all those places. Anywhere you go to buy books or download them.
Fascinating stuff. A pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure meeting
Thank you
you
for
too.
joining us
Thank you
here today.
for having me.
It is 9:37.